So a buyer love letter is not against the law? Good afternoon. So I've been going over, I don't know if you've been following yourselves, but this buyer love letter law in Oregon seemed like a bad idea when they made it. Told you the reasons why back a while ago, but now finally a court has said no, that you're not going to be able to ban buyer love letters. And so I just wanted to go over it first. What is a buyer's love letter and get that caught up, and then we can go over some articles about the ruling. So let's get to it. So number one, what is a buyer love letter? A buyer love letter is a letter that the buyer writes to the seller that says something about them and what they like about the seller's home. Similarly, a seller's love letter is when a seller writes a letter telling prospective buyers about their home. You usually see them when you go to showings. This episode is not about seller love letters, but I did want you to know that they exist, and no one seems to say anything about them. When is a buyer love letter used? A buyer love letter is used when you put in an offer to buy a house. You make the offer and then include the buyer love letter. Why use a buyer love letter? You use a buyer love letter because you want to try and explain to the seller that you actually do really like the house and that you understand that the seller can sell to anyone. But you are trying to convey that not everyone would care for the house like you would. What are the downsides of using a buyer love letter? I think the main downside of a buyer love letter is this. Let's say you really like a house and you tell the seller that in a letter. Then you get the house under contract and you have a home inspection that tears apart the seller's home and you ask for tons of repairs. Do you think that the seller is going to want to go easy on your demands, especially since you wrote that you loved the house? I don't think so. They're going to be insulted. The National Association of Realtors positions that the love letter could contribute to any sort of ism, racism, sexism, etc. Are buyer love letters effective? Many people are mistaken when they think that the seller is required to sell to the highest offer. They are not. They are to choose the offer that they think is the best offer for them. As an example, if one buyer offered $100,000 without a love letter and another buyer offered $95,000 but wrote a buyer love letter that they would forever treat the home as well as the sellers did, that might sway the sellers into taking the lower offer. I've had buyers use love letters, and I've personally never witnessed sellers taking a lower offer, but I know that it must happen from time to time. Why did the state of Oregon enact a law to ban love letters? Well, I'm pretty sure that some agent got upset that someone didn't take their offer with a love letter included one time, and now they want to take the option away from everyone else. What is my opinion of buyer love letters? Well, my opinion is this. There are many things to be worried about in the world. A buyer love letter isn't anywhere near the thing to be worried about. Here's why. The fear is that it might violate fair housing is absurd. If a seller is racist, if a seller is a homophobe, that's who they are. Your offer is submitted with you or your partner's name on it. The seller is probably going to Google your name, probably going to go check you out on Facebook, somewhere on social media. The seller wants the house to go to good hands. The letter isn't going to be what stops racism or any other ism. It's not like the seller is going to read a letter and say, I can't choose people because of X or Y. And if they did, that's on them. They can choose to take a better offer. You don't solve the inherent racism of the person by banning the letter. Also, are buyers in the wrong when they see on the seller documents those names and search them up as well? And should a buyer rescind their offer due to their own racism or sexism? Why is that okay? The very act of writing the letter and the buyer accepting the offer because of the letter isn't inherently racist or anything else. The most brilliant love letter I saw came from a family who wrote the buyer love letter in the voice of their dog. What if you hate dogs? So now I just wanted to go over some articles. Like they're kind of similar, but I'll just pick out a few of the things that I saw in them, so we can kind of see what's going on. So let me switch over to this. Okay, here we go. So on this, it says, in his court order, the district judge says Oregon's House bill likely violates the First Amendment's rights of real estate agents. And so how is this a First Amendment right for real estate agents? I don't even understand that. We are not the ones writing the letter or submitting photographs. We're just forwarding the letter written by our buyers. And then in the article, it says supporters argue that these letters perpetuate housing discrimination by revealing a buyer's race, religion, sexual orientation, or marital status. And this is an issue. It's also an issue when you write husband and wife on the offer. Does someone who really wants to buy a house and really wants to write an offer say, I am of such and such protected class, so you should pick me? It's nonsense. Again, in this world, 2022, sellers are going to look you up on social media. And if you were there, they're going to know everything about you. It has nothing to do with the letter. Your names are on the offer. Another quote here, it says, the real estate market has grown uneasy with love letters because they risk raising a housing discrimination claim. Many real estate agents won't accept them. Still, proponents say these letters are often the only edge a first-time buyer has against deep-pocketed investors that buy entry-level homes. And I'm uneasy with fair housing claim pursued against me. They literally pay organizations to sit and call real estate agents all day and look to ensnare you into a fair housing violation. So it's not like the buyer love letter is the issue here. As far as real estate agents not accepting them, who do they work for? Do they work for the buyer or the seller? You are to put your loyalty to them, not to choose to not do something because you don't personally like it. The last sentence, often the only edge a first-time homebuyer has against deep-pocketed investors that buy entry-level homes, that's true. And who do you think is probably behind this push to ban love letters? That would be interesting to check. How much money has been given to the politicians who wrote this bill by real estate interests, by Wall Street-backed real estate buyers of single-family homes? Let's get more into it here. So the judge points out that laws that outright prohibited people of color from owning land in Oregon, as well as governmental policies and industry practices that continue to enable housing discrimination to this day. And a history of housing discrimination, I totally agree. Government policies that are inherently racist, I totally agree. But what are these industry practices that continue to enable housing discrimination to this day? Provide specific examples. Are there people in the industry committing these atrocities every day and not being punished? And how is that allowed to continue to happen? And there were some alternatives discussed by the ruling, and it said lawmakers could allow love letters, but require real estate agents to edit out any information that could reveal the buyer's race, religion, sexual orientation, or marital status. On top of that, lawmakers could prohibit buyers from providing personal photos to sellers. I'm a real estate agent. My job is to help people buy homes or sell homes. Now you want me to edit letters to make them probably or possibly less racist or any-ist? I'm not a copywriter. Why are you shifting responsibility from the buyer to me? That gives me all the risk of a fair housing violation with no added benefit of compensation. So I'm out. No thanks. The next article. Let's see where it goes here. It goes down here. The claim in the suit is, instead of specifically prohibiting love letters, the law bans all written communication outside of customary documents. The law doesn't specify what customary documents include. And so the law is written too broadly. So the buyers could include a pair of tickets in the next football game, which would not be a violation of fair housing laws, but could be construed to be a violation of the loan regulation because anything of value should be removed from the appraisal. It's not like the real estate agent's job to police what documents go back and forth between the sellers outside of customary documents. This just opens a big can of worms. So I see where it's too vague. I totally understand where they're coming from there. So then in this next article, that's right here, Judge temporarily halts Oregon ban on real estate love letters. It says the information could then be used knowingly or through unconscious bias as an unlawful basis for a seller's decision to accept or reject an offer, according to a post on the association website. The Ohio Realtors Group made the same point. The lawsuit said that lawmakers provided no proof that discrimination was taking place and that the state and federal laws already prohibiting housing discrimination. And so unconscious bias to reject or accept an offer is the standard we're going with. That's garbage, just garbage. The seller might just not like you because they think you are a jerk. And to be honest, some of the buyer love letters I've seen have the exact effect of not wanting sellers to choose an offer because the buyer exudes an arrogance. Prove that this is taking place. You can't pass laws based on suspicion. There has to be some sort of evidence. And again, correctly stated, there are already federal laws against discrimination. In this article, this was one of the better written articles. It says the letters often written to appeal to a seller to accept a potentially less competitive offer were outlawed as of January 1st by lawmakers seeking to ensure that the sellers couldn't make the decisions based on race, national origin, marital or family status, sex, sexual orientation, or other protected classes. This is not something that lawmakers can ensure. If you are a person who has issues with a certain group of people, the legislature isn't fixing that through the banning of a love letter. And then it says this ruling preserves the opportunity of homebuyers to speak freely to sellers and make the case why their purchase offers should win out. And that's one of the winners of the lawsuit. And I generally agree with this. Look, the buyer has an opportunity here that they could just as easily screw up. So, they have a chance. They have a chance. And then it says here, it's believed to be the first such law in the country. And I don't understand this believed to be. In quotes, this has received major media coverage in the real estate industry for months. How has someone not researched if this is the first? And then we get into another article. And what does it matter if it's the first or the 50th? To me, I don't even get it. So in this article now, the last one, it says it's believed to be the first such law in the country. Okay. And then down here it says last year, Oregon was the first state to pass a bill banning love letters, citing that they could be used to discriminate against potential buyers. Now, how do those statements in the same article line up? It doesn't make any sense. It says, in quotes, it says, we've never seen an instance, and I don't think that the state has either, of sellers using that information to discriminate against a buyer. He and Blevins, which are the people that sued, acknowledged that there certainly is discrimination in real estate, but said that banning the letters is not the best solution. And now it says now there's definitely discrimination in real estate based on what the plaintiffs say. So up in the earlier article, in one of the earlier ones, it says that there's no proof of discrimination taking place. And now it says that everyone is on board with the discrimination that's occurring. It's kind of confusing to me. And then finally, these people that won even, they suggested that allowing buyers to redact information or photographs from letters, improving the education on discrimination, and requiring disclosures acknowledging anti-bias laws. And I just wanted to go through those things. So back to redacting information. So now real estate agents are copywriters again, which is a terrible idea. Improving the education on discrimination. Do you know how many lectures we're required to sit through for our continuing education? Fair housing law is almost always covered each renewal for as long as I can remember. It's its own separate course. So I don't know how that's going to change things. And requiring disclosures acknowledging anti-bias laws, like the federally required lead-based paint form. I mean, say someone signs this form. Does the mere act of signing this form stop bias if that person is a bad person? It's like having laws against firearms and then being surprised that criminals use firearms with no regard for the law. So this is my thought. This is where I'm at. I'm kind of curious what you think. I know that the National Association of Realtors has warned against this sort of thing. I think that this idea of extending unconscious bias to a buyer's letter and making and saying that is in any way how a seller chose to pick one offer or another is ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. And I don't wish to see any sort of bias in the housing market. I don't. I think that that's wrong all the way. I just don't see how banning this buyer love letter is going to help you accomplish that goal. I really don't. If a person is bad, they're bad. It doesn't matter if they choose to pick someone on a buyer love letter. They're already a bad person, and maybe the buyer shouldn't even be in that house. I mean, maybe they shouldn't even want to own a house where a seller had these issues in the past. I don't know. It just seems odd to me. So anyway, with that, I'm going to head on out. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. If you get a chance on YouTube, would you hit the subscribe button? I'm at 60 subscribers. It's been like 2 months and I'm getting kind of sick of just the number. If I could get 61, 62, I'd be good with that. So with that, I'm going to head on out. I will see you later. Thanks.